I'm not even 30, and I've seen so many relationships fall apart, unfortunately. But the ones that I see last are the ones where not only do they take care of each other in the relationship, but they take care of themselves, because your relationship with yourself is your primary relationship. Of course, as soon as I start recording, my dog wants to play, and I always try to get him to like get up on the couch and cuddle. And then he's like, "Ma'am, I would like entertainment. You should obviously entertain me." I think he's like half cat, to be honest. Anyways, you're listening to the Head of the Table podcast. And that's right, we have mugs. I'm so excited. I think I drink out of this constantly now. I love a good merch moment. Fun fact, every year my fiance and I love to do like a little lake trip moment. We go with our friends. It's super cute. And we always come up with merch for it. And I just think it's so cute. Like every year people are like, "Oh my God, this year we get hats. This year we get sunglasses. This year we get like, bags, whatever it is." And it's just like so much fun to come up with ideas. So I couldn't resist. I do have some extras. So I've been saying that if we can reach like 100 subscribers on YouTube, I will do a giveaway on the Instagram. And I think that would be so much fun because, one, who doesn't love a good mug? Two, how cute is this with like the little pink? I think I'm in my pink era. Like I grew up and I was a tomboy who's like, I like blue, I like red. And now I'm like, I'm about to be 30. I can like whatever color I want. Pink it is, because I think, first of all, that pink should be associated with leadership, because why not? Any color can be associated with leadership. And two, I felt the vibes. It was what I wanted. If you're new here, you're listening to the Head of the Table podcast. I'm Nora Riddle. I'm your host. I am a former policy advisor, former chief of staff in corporate America, and your advisor on all things leadership. And this is an inclusive leadership podcast. We talk about how to become a leader wherever you are in that journey, and how to be inclusive as a leader and to grow as a leader. And today, in honor of February, Valentine's Day month, I mean, it's not really a month, it has Valentine's Day in February, I felt like we should talk about relationships, love, and how it fits into leadership. Or maybe it doesn't. I think one of the most important aspects of leadership is having a strong partner. Charlie spotting. Got him every time. So funny. I think that really when you want to step up into a leadership position, whether that's being an owner of a company, whether it's being a leader of people, like you're a manager, you're a project manager, a team lead, you are a CEO, a CFO, you're on a board, maybe you lead or play some sort of leading role in like an advocacy group in your community, on a school board, whatever it is. I really think that it is important to have a strong partner. And I know I've previously talked about community, but the reason I feel called to talk about this in particular is something that I hear so often on social media, in political rhetoric, all over the place. It's just like, there's a loneliness pandemic. I do think that there is. I do think that people are lonely, but I want to delve into why. And I also kind of want to delve into some of the interesting dynamics that I witness in the algorithm, in the messaging coming from people. And a lot of it really comes from victim mentality. And as we've discussed on the podcast, while victim mentality can certainly be helpful as it signals something is off, it's not a lifestyle, at least not a good one. And it's really not going to help you be the leader that you could be. So I wanted to talk a little bit about relationships and how they can be really helpful or they can be really harmful in some situations. One of the biggest, like largest things we would always talk about in my former office, which is the U.S. Department of State's well, God, this is such a mouthful. You know, it's like a little too long whenever even the people who work in it can't fully get there. The U.S. Department of State Secretary's Office of Global Women's Issues, which means the head of the U.S. Department of State, who is now the head of other organizations, unclear. Who knows what's happening there? Our teams had a boss who was an ambassador, and then she reported to the Secretary of State. So very high up. And I just say that to signal that our priorities were meant to be like high level. Like we couldn't get into every little nitty gritty detail. And we often coordinated for the entire US government. One of the things that we talked about so much was care. And here's why relationships fit into this. Here's why there's a leadership element. Care is a growing issue. When you look at populations around the globe largely, particularly if you're looking like in the US, where I focused on some US things, I was representing the US, like care is a big issue because one, the like cost of childcare. Sorry, this is like I can't talk. I'm so taken aback by the cost of childcare. I'm like, oh my God. Like I think the average cost is like $26,000. Maybe that's just in the DC area. But that's insane. Excuse me. Like that was like college for my parents. The entire college. All of the like that doesn't meet inflation. That's absolutely wild. And a lot of governments are struggling to figure out what to do with that because people are working. Both parents are working. And on top of that, there are significantly larger generations that are aging. And part of that's due for like a variety of reasons, like birth rates have dropped. And it's so interesting to me because there's been this whole conversation in the political sphere online about like what people should or shouldn't do. You should be a mom. You shouldn't be a mom. We need to increase the population. Why? That's the one thing nobody's really been able to answer for me. Why do we have to have a larger population? Why does my generation have to have more kids? Why do we have to be a very large nation? Like, even if birth rates decline, the biggest issue that I can see is care of older generations. And I'm going to be really honest with you. If I have a child or children, that isn't going to help me be able to take care of my parents better because elder care has increased. This is an economic issue that is being placed on particularly young women to fix, which, let's be honest, in my previous job, I could have helped, but they fired me to go have children? ? Maybe? Not really sure what's going on there. And this is not a purely political podcast. So we're going to move right along back to relationships. And here's why. I think so often right now I hear rhetoric of I'm looking for a person that does XYZ for me. But we're not looking for how that we like show up for ourselves in that way. And a big part of leadership is not only taking care of the people around you, but taking care of yourself. And so the best advice I can offer you if you are someone who is seeking out a partner, particularly a young woman who's like, well, how am I supposed to balance like a career, a relationship, if I want to have family, like set the costs aside, which is still going to be a big element. Like, how do I balance these things? And how do I find a partner who's going to show up for me? Because I do think we unfortunately have seen a lot of partners not show up for people. And unfortunately with my generation, and especially like older millennials, Gen X, I have seen a lot of women who have gotten into relationships, who have had kids, and they really have a hard time getting full support from their partner. And I think that goes back to one, like the reason this podcast is for everyone is this is advice both for you if you are the partner that's not receiving the support, and also if you are the partner that maybe wants to give support, you don't know how, you're struggling, or maybe you just haven't identified yet that you're the partner not giving support. First and foremost, we always have to start with ourselves. We always have to start with investing in ourselves. For example, if you feel like people in your life, maybe it's like your romantic partner, if you feel like your romantic partner is not prioritizing date night, do you go and take yourselves on dates? Like yourself on a date? Do you go buy yourself coffee? Do you go buy yourself lunch? Do you take yourself to the spa? Do you, and if you like, if financially that's not a possibility, do you give yourself a self-care night? Do you have a night where you're like, no, don't talk to me? I do those almost every week. I've been a little less consistent. This is a priority for February for me. Once a week, I take a nice bath. I read a lovely book. I watch a good TV series. I put on like a little face mask. I do a hair mask. I like go take myself out to a dinner where I just eat by myself. And that really sets the tone of the expectation that I have for my partner. Because if I'm doing all that stuff and then my partner is like, wait, you buy yourself flowers, but I never buy you flowers. Huh? Oh, you take yourself out to dinner? Well, we've been dating for a long time. I just like, I don't know if I should prioritize. Oh, you take yourself. Oh, I should probably do that too. It sets the tone for people around you. And if you are the person where you're like listening to this and you're like, I do all of that stuff, do you do it for your partner? Maybe, maybe not. And I would just really encourage you to, as we think of February, the month of love, of Valentine's Day, the purpose of Valentine's Day was a way to not like give all the chocolates in the world, unless your person loves chocolates. It was about showing care for the people we love. And that wasn't just romantic relationships, but I do think that there's like a strong element to romantic relationships. So I'd really encourage you as you go through this month, whether you're single and happy. I've been in my single girl era. Maybe you're in your single person era. You're like, I don't want to be around other people. That's fine. Whether you're there, whether you're single and ready to mingle, whether you're in a relationship, you know, have been in that relationship a short time, a long time, you've been married for a long time. It's so important for you not only to invest in a relationship, but to invest in yourself to set the tone for the relationship. And the relationships that I really see last, which it's hilarious, like I'm not even 30 and I've seen so many relationships fall apart, unfortunately. But the ones that I see last are the ones where not only do they take care of each other in the relationship, but they take care of themselves. Because your relationship with yourself is your primary relationship. So as I hear all of this stuff about the care economy, how do we deal with care? How do we deal with elder care? How do we deal with child care? How do we deal with, you know, the loneliness epidemic? How do we deal with, you know, people feeling really lonely and like not in relationships and they don't feel like anybody wants to get into a relationship with them? All of this starts within. All of this starts with how you carry yourself, how you treat yourself. And while I might not be in a position anymore to fix things like elder care, child care through policy, I can make an impact through you. I can make an impact by telling you to take care of yourself, by finding ways to show up for yourself. The moment that I feel like people are not showing up for me is the minute that I go within. For example, I had this hilarious thing happen over like the last week where I feel like everybody was talking over me. Like it was comical. Like I was like, am I in a sitcom? Where are the cameras? What is happening? We're just like anybody and everybody like, we have a big baby on set today. Hello. Oh my goodness. Oh. But I had this like comical thing happening to me where like people kept interrupting me. Like every conversation I would have, people would like talk over me. And maybe not every, but a lot of conversations, to the point that I was like, am I being pranked? Like, what is happening? I was like looking around, like looking for the cameras. I'm like, this is crazy. And then I realized that I hadn't taken any time to really sit down and journal and like kind of see maybe what I had going on subconsciously, really taking time to sit alone and be with myself and think about like what I needed and listen to myself. And the minute that I did that, it stopped. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. What is happening? What in the supernatural spooky like, but I think not that it's not that magically out of nowhere. Thank you, Charlie, for your tail in my face. This dog on a whole other level today. It's not that if something is happening to you, it's like your fault. I do think that our brain will focus on certain things and pick up on certain patterns when it's something we need to be paying attention to, particularly our subconscious brain. And so if you're finding yourself where like you want to go on dates and people just like keep bailing on you, if you feel like your partner isn't showing up for you, I would take a minute to really think about how are you showing up for yourself? What are you wanting to get out of that? And how can you give that to yourself first? There will be some situations where you can't give it to yourself. It's not about you. It's about your partner. But particularly for my young women or women more generally that are pursuing leadership or in leadership and are looking for or not receiving the support that they want from their partner or a partner, I would really encourage you to invest in yourself. And I know that can seem really hard. That can seem really frustrating. Where you're like, well, why can't somebody just like appear out of nowhere? I have the most hilarious like love story. And I feel like it's all of my friends are like, my single friends are like, that's so unhelpful for me. I was in my single girl era. I had not dated for like 6 months. I was like, I don't want to date. I don't want to see people. I'm just like, I'm working on myself. I'm working out. I'm hanging out with my dog. I'm reading these books. I'm, watching fun TV. I was like really into like Chinese dramas. They were really fun. I was trying to like brush up on my Mandarin and honestly, I don't know how much it really helped my Mandarin, but they were really fun shows to watch. So let me know if you ever want recommendations. But I was in this like single girl era. I did not want to interact with other people. And I straight up was touring an apartment and I was in an elevator and my now fiance walked into that elevator. I know it's not helpful because people are like, oh, should I go on Tinder? Should I go do this? I was literally just focusing on pursuing fun things that I liked, investing in myself, and making time for the people in my life that were showing up for me. And it sucks because I remember so often people would be like, it'll happen when it happens. And you're like, I want to physically harm you right now. You're like, what do you mean it'll happen when it happens? That is not helpful. That's like a fortune cookie. Like, you will meet the love of your life when you meet the love of your life. Great, thanks. Like, so glad I went to like China buffet for the love advice. Like, what? Which, first of all, those buffets slap. They're fantastic every freaking time. I love like a Chinese American buffet. 10 out of 10. In the same way that I love like authentic Chinese food, like authentic Hong Kong food, authentic like Sichuan food. I don't know why I blanked for a minute. Probably because I was overwhelmed. I love Chinese food. I have an obsession, guys. It's a problem. Anyway, I understand so much so the struggle of wanting that partner to show up for you. And even when they do show up and you meet a person, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're perfect for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that they show up for you perfectly. You have to continue to maintain that relationship with yourself. You have to continue to invest in yourself. And if you find yourself getting really, really annoyed by like certain behaviors or patterns that you're seeing, I wouldn't say like it's always you. Like that is absolutely not my messaging. But I would tell you to take a minute to think, like look within, because as like Joe Dispenza, Abraham Hicks, David Cameron Gikandi talks about, our external reality is a reflection of our internal reality. And if you are seeing the same thing, particularly out of like multiple people, if you're seeing patterns, and by talking it through with someone, like they're not like getting it, I would maybe take a step back and see, one, how you can give that to yourself, because if that isn't your life partner, then they're not your life partner. But you still need to be giving that to yourself. And if that is your life partner and you start giving that to yourself, they will notice. I bought flowers for myself once. And my fiance was like, "Do you like flowers?" I was like, "Oh my God, I love flowers." And now every time we go to a grocery store, he either comes back with flowers, or if I'm with him, he'll be like, "Go pick out flowers." I understand that there is some rarity to finding it, or there feels like some rarity to finding a partner. But in the same way that Abraham Hicks talks about how like people who are fearful of money scarcity kind of have like the same challenge as people who are fearful of like finding the right partner or having a partner, feeling like there's not enough partners. There is always abundance, and it is in fact our like mentality and our mindset around abundance that dictates whether there is abundance in our reality. In the same way that GDP has this ability to continue to grow, and it grows, and it honestly, like, economies have higher GDP with globalization, with like trade, by, you know, coordinating, collaborating with other economies. In the same way that when you believe that there is abundance out there for you, there is. And when you do not believe that there is abundance out there for you, there is not. And I think that's really hard, because then when you're in a place where you feel like there is lack, you don't know what to do. Or maybe you know what to do, but you don't want to do it, or you feel resistance. You can, you know, change through certain routines. In this situation, I highly, highly, highly recommend emotional freedom technique, EFT. If you want to work with someone, you can always work with me, but you can also work with other practitioners that maybe are who you feel called to work with. But I went from a place where I was struggling financially and struggling romantically to meeting the love of my life and having great financial abundance. And part of it's because those are connected. So particularly if you're a leader listening to this and you're like, okay, well, I'm a great leader and work is so great, but like my partner's not showing up for me, or a lot of people in my life aren't showing up for me, you might also be having some financial challenges. Oftentimes, those feelings of lack of self-worth, of like any sort of like worthiness, which is like feeling your value, wanting to feel valued. If you are struggling, you know, kind of in the same way of like, if you're not getting that raise at work, I would also kind of look at your romantic relationships or platonic relationships to see how those are showing up for you, and vice versa, because they're often so related because they tie to worthiness. And so as we go through February, if you're wanting to work with someone, I'm around. If you are, you know, really just trying to figure out how you can show up for yourself, I can also kind of help with that. But at the very least, I would love, love, love for you to subscribe, click that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, to subscribe, to like, to leave reviews, leave comments. Any and all feedback is so welcome, and it also really, really helps me out. You know, I'm really trying to show up for you guys, so maybe you can show up for me too, because we're trying to show up for ourselves, and we're trying to show up for the people that we care about, even if maybe they're just silly people that we listen to on YouTube. I hope you have a fabulous Valentine's Day, a fabulous, February. I hope that you're able to show the people that you care about in your life that you care. And I hope that those people show it right back to you. And I hope you show it to yourself. Bye.